Uh, hello, and, how's it going, eh? This is Associate A10739023. I'm basically the labor behind this channel. Most of the things that happen here happen because, well, I put it together one fashion or another. Some of the content you will see here on this channel I've been slowly accumulating for a few years now. But in an odd way, it actually started many years before that. So let me take you back, way back, and let me try to give you an idea of where the foundations of all this began. So, let me first say I'm lucky to even be here, and I say lucky because it's more of a point of perspective. Never mind the difficult birth as I came into this world, but in the first 6 years of my life, I moved about with my family from one end of Canada to the other. Saw some things young eyes shouldn't see, and survived a tornado. Maybe I'll get into the gritty of some of those events in another video, but yeah, that should be enough to get the ball rolling. Because of some of these events, I became a very quiet child. Non-communicative, really. I even briefly had a conceptualization I didn't even need to talk to people because, well, I believed I could speak to others with my mind. Yeah, that wasn't going to fly very well with others. Then came doctors. Doctors with good intentions to get me to speak out more and more often. This happened at the same time I was just starting school, where there was no infrastructure in the education system to tolerate such actions and behaviors from a child that suffered from various points of traumas they often try to do today. To be fair, I didn't recognize it as trauma for a number of those years to come. But of course, I had big communicative influences on me when I was young. Television, music, movies, radio. Back then, I seemed to have a knack for imitating and memorizing lines in dialect with little to no effort. I just had a harder time forming unique sentences of my own. It was the influence of media that helped me more than anything to get me to communicate better than before. But it wasn't overnight. It would be a struggle for years to come, and there are times when my brain works faster than I'm physically capable of communicating. As you can imagine, it was very hard to make friends in my youth. Many of my hobbies were very independent. I would indulge myself in many different forms of arts, make pictures and do drawings, put them up in my room, and try to give a false layout to settings of something that I've seen on TV or overheard on the radio. I would tend to use music lyrics to express my feelings and sing it out loud. I would mimic my voice to cartoons and characters from movies or television to tell how I could relate to what was going on around me and to other people. In turn, which made me want to learn how to do animations, make movies, make radio programs, and eventually understand programming for computers and video games. When I finally got to high school, a very well-to-do high school in the local community I was living in at that time, they flaunted a program they had available that would do just that. I got into the communications course and started learning about rule of thirds, cuts, movies, and television production, even smaller aspects of animation, and the entire production process. I had the full intent of going to work in the television industry, in Canada, or anywhere for that matter. Even at that time, there was a big push to make sure people got into the television industry in Canada. Coming out of school, I got a loan, found a private little academy that had an accelerated program in communications. I would get an equivalent to a college-level education in the field in just about 8 months. Then, like many good things, they tend to go to my folks went through a messy separation and divorce. I'd eventually find myself stepping up to help the immediate family and put my personal aspirations on the shelf. I went from several labor jobs scrapping up cash to help pay the rent, lawyers' fees, etc. I did my best to try to keep up with the skill sets during them years, but I can't say it was often. Programs were becoming expensive and tech was changing. Eventually, YouTube came along and thought about it as an option at that time, but didn't have the resources to participate. Time marched on, and keeping up skill sets became more of a hobby itself, doing less and less of it and more physical labor. Things would get better. I'd eventually have a mortgaged house. My siblings got a good education, my mother did well, and my father is hiding right now somewhere in Canada. I had a good labor job that paid well and was very good to work for, at least in the first few years. Made my way up to team leader of a whole production department. For a fair time, it looked like doing anything involving media was just going to be a soft skill. If I were to put things together like graphic presentations, photos, videos, art sets, it would probably be for work or just something I'd do to help out a friend. Then, like many good things, they go to shit. Swift changes were made at my place of business, due in part to the fiscal collapse of the housing markets in the United States. The company I was with was international and took a big hit. That progressive environment would go toxic in a very short time, never mind the good pay and options for advancement to go with it. Company programs that were available to build internal management systems gave way to favoritism, backroom character assassinations, and narcissistic tendencies as a standard for the company's culture. I was looking for a way out with the skill sets that I had, but outside of labor and minimal management, the only skill set I had was the arts and communications that I was able to keep up during the last number of years. Wasn't very much to go on. It wasn't much longer after that the money I was making at the job was not sustaining what it was before. I was running myself into debt just trying to keep up with simple bills and repairs around the home as the management staff became more aggressive towards myself and other associates, and disassociated with reality and the cost of living. I had long lost my team leadership position due to cutbacks and reorganization. Then, like many things, then I started to get health problems. Over a span of 8 months, I contracted asthma, had 3 lung infections, sleep apnea, which was off the scale, got a misdiagnosis of hypothyroidism, hypertension, panic attacks, and got bouts of depression. I even started to have old physical injuries from my youth make a return, as things got harder to operate at the company as I had done in the years before. The writing was on the wall to get out and find something where I could look after myself to address these problems that were occurring before the company decided to do that for me. By the time I was let go from that company, under circumstances that would be a lawyer's wet dream come true, I had 2 jobs lined up. As I was getting myself ready with an unlawful dismissal case and to go into training for my new job, for once in an office, where I wouldn't be pushing my body hard, then, like many things, that's when the pandemic hit. And everyone and everything ran around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to figure out what to do next. I had just moved to get closer to the new job when they let me go because of the pandemic. At least I had all my debt paid off from selling my house. Just didn't know what to do next. I also didn't want to blow my cash in a court trial that could take longer due to the pandemic restrictions. So, I dropped that to try to plan for the long haul. Then, while setting up my computer in my new rent-controlled apartment, I came across years of story outlines, half-finished scripts and novels, art concepts, Photoshop graphics that I once played with. I had 3D models, and an old logo design from almost 6 years before. Not that one, this one. So, the original name was going to be, this. When roughly translated from the Latin using a very poor online translator, means Maple Winds Creations. And of course, the acronym is AVC. And I found it a very playful use of AV, and the Latin made it sound very intellectual as well. I also had a small slew of things using the acronym ready to go when I discovered some guy in Europe on Instagram was already using it for his production business. So I acted fast and decided to try this in a Scottish Gaelic translation, only to find out it didn't work well with the word maple. And I changed it up to translate to cold winds or cool winds, apparently being the same thing in the translation. I did a quick graphics change, close, reopen, change existing accounts. But this also meant that I would have to re-edit and do program changes to what I was originally intending to publish, and instead, eventually took the attitude to ride by the seat of my pants. That's why I put out the passive path past Paradise. It was one of the few I hadn't put any logo or acronym on yet, and it was quick to edit. Then we have Long Quiet Nights, which was more or less started as an ongoing test to relearn my editing skills for the program that I want to make, and became what is now referred to as slow TV. I'll get deeper into the story behind the creation in a future video. As for what I had lined up, I'm still trying to repurpose and re-edit, but I'll give you a glimpse of something I've been trying to get out. Which brings us to... Now, I'm feeling a little odd about this. Nowadays, with all the AI and many content creators that have more resources and time than I do, I always feel that someone might swipe my ideas before I'm able to get them out, and then I'm left in the dust with forgotten content while they get all the recognition. But I need to do this to at least attempt to draw some interest. It's a double-edged sword, so I'm not sure I'll do this too often. In our backyard, we will be following the adventures of 4 characters as they make their round to different attractions and popular locations in southern and central Ontario. They will mostly be highlighting the locations and making commentary on things like the local food, history of the event, or surrounding events. I would hope this encourages not only locals in southern and central Ontario to explore such places, but also gives people outside a reason to visit. Right now, the characters are not set in stone, and I'm still working on the depictions and personalities, but this will take a lot of effort editing, so when I do launch it, it will most likely be 2 episodes a month instead of 1 a week. Gimmidens and vacation rentals. This will probably be a one-off short series. And this program will show us some architectural concepts under the guise of a fictional company that provides not only homes to vacationers, but also places to recover from mental health issues. The VR guide in every video will give aspects to the fake lodgings and quick overview to the health programs that they will provide. The scripts are being reworked and some changes are being made in the 3D layouts to try to save on time to produce them. I will most likely make this a Patreon exclusive before releasing each episode on YouTube on a weekly basis when production is complete. Nouveau Moo is currently intended to be on TikTok and meant for a quick comedy. This fake ice cream company will have some interesting flavors and ways to advertise them, currently in pre-production stages. All the following previews are, of course, subject to change depending on what happens, not only during the production stages, but, well, what happens in my life. As I mentioned before, cash is getting kind of slim, and there's a chance of me having to take on a job outside of YouTube to make ends meet, in which case production could slow, be shelved, removed completely, or reworked from its original intent. And sadly, a chance I will become so busy with making ends meet, I may have to stop work on this channel altogether and completely. Long term, I would like this channel to at least help me pay my bills, and save up to either go back to school to improve my current skill sets, or develop new ones for a more long-term profession. Would I like to spend the rest of my years just doing YouTube content? Of course I do, but even that's not an easy task to accomplish. I have to try to keep my options open, at the same time reaching out to some of my old dreams. Maybe in a few years I'd like to get enough money to save up and get another down payment for another home altogether, have it fully paid off, and then work on a retirement plan, if that's even possible anymore in the modern economy. There seems to be some basic stuff, right? Kind of funny how all looks to be out of reach for far too many people now. But, hopefully, if worse comes to worse, this channel will act as somewhat of a digital log of sorts of some of the ideas and things I try to reach out with, even if I do have to walk away to deal with the trappings of life. Well, not bad for your first visit to see me in my cell. I'll make another video sometime down the road, something just as informative of what I'm doing, and keep you up to date as best possible. Until then, you have a good day and try to stay out of trouble.